Thank you, Madam President. At the outset, we congratulate Guyana on assuming the presidency of the Council, and thank you for organizing this timely and important debate. As we mark the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, it is fitting that we reflect on how development and prosperity have eluded a majority of humanity which still faces poverty, lack of access to resources and opportunities, and lack of attention to their plight in an increasingly distracted world. This has direct and indirect impact on the Council's primary responsibility for maintenance of international peace and security. Let me at the outset highlight India's journey in alleviating poverty that illustrates the transformative power of inclusive, people-centric development. Around 250 million people have been pulled out of multidimensional poverty in the last decade, bringing poverty down by 60% in India, signifying a major improvement in living standards for a large segment of the population. This has been achieved through targeted investments in health, education and skilling, housing, financial inclusion, and leveraging new and emerging technologies to leapfrog development, especially digital public infrastructure. Our efforts are focused especially on marginalized communities, women, youth, and children that have not only strengthened development outcomes, but also social cohesion and resilience. As we discuss a means to achieve better coordination between conflict prevention, peace building, and peacekeeping mechanisms of the United Nations to promote sustainable peace and development, recent history provides a useful context. In the period 1991 to 2010, the United Nations was able to leverage a unique and fortuitous geopolitical context and succeeded in crafting successful peace-building missions in various conflict areas, such as Central African Republic, Colombia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Tajikistan, to name a few. Peacekeeping seamlessly flowed into peace-building and thereafter into national development. Since then, however, the geopolitical landscape has changed considerably, constricting the replication of these strategies, which have not been deployed in the past decade in such peace-building missions. The UN Regional Center for Preventive Diplomacy for Central Asia is one notable exception that stands out. The lack of active peace-building and preventive diplomacy missions restrict the tools available to the Security Council to deliver on its core mandate of maintenance of international peace and security. Lack of development and persistent poverty are risk factors that enhance vulnerability for eruption of conflict. Regional organizations have enlarged their footprint and gaining greater prominence in the context of conflict prevention and peace building. Moving forward, multilateral mechanisms may need to interact more with multiple stakeholders, including non-governmental organizations and business and industry, while driving the agenda of peace and security. It merits emphasis in this backdrop that UN peacekeeping operations today are often burdened with objectives that go beyond the traditional mandate of peacekeeping. The new multidimensional Christmas tree mandates impinge on the effectiveness of these missions and are not commensurate with allocated resources. The need of the hour, in our view, is a plain vanilla approach to peacekeeping. India would like to make the following concrete recommendations towards strengthening conflict prevention and peace-building efforts. First, in situations of conflict, which lie in the political and socio-economic domains, peace operations can create conducive conditions for political and socio-economic processes to take hold, but cannot replace them. To sustain peace and prevent relapse of conflicts, countries should be provided with adequate resources and time towards building of robust institutions and governance structures. The international community needs to go beyond short-term solutions and instead address long-term socio-economic development of the countries recovering from conflict. In this process, peace building can benefit from human-centric technological advances such as digital public infrastructure to foster inclusive and resilient economies, build trust between citizens and government, and leapfrog the development process. We stand ready to offer our expertise in implementing DPI to address development needs. Second, India reaffirms the primacy of national governments and authorities in identifying and driving priorities, strategies, and activities for peace building and conflict prevention. National ownership needs to be a non-negotiable aspect of all activities under peace building. This would help ensure greater trust in the system. Third, we encourage further coordination among UN agencies led by the resident coordinator system and stronger partnerships with regional organizations such as the African Union, CARICOM, etc., including for mobilizing additional resources from IFIs and regional development banks to facilitate addressing the developmental needs of national governments. Fourth, the Security Council must deepen its engagement with ECOSOC, the Peacebuilding Commission, and the broader development system while taking care to prevent securitizing development domains. Early warning and conflict analysis cannot function in silos. We must draw from the insights of national governments, resident coordinators, local peace builders, and regional organizations to design responses grounded in real needs, national priorities, and ground realities. Fifth, one must avoid generic mainstreaming and a one-size-fits-all prescriptive approach and instead recognize the complexities associated with different national contexts. Finally, development is strongly linked to peace building. The need for financing development gains salience in this backdrop. We hope that the outcomes from the forthcoming 4th International Conference on Financing for Development would comprehensively address the deepening financing gap for achieving the SDGs, especially for developing countries. India believes that the path to achieving sustainable development must be anchored in strengthened multilateralism, respect for national ownership, and commitment to equity. Madam President, in conclusion, let me reiterate India's unwavering commitment to multilateralism and more specifically towards the maintenance of international peace and security. We have consistently played a constructive and significant role in peace building through its extensive development partnerships and with the various countries in the global south. The cumulative value of our development projects now exceed $40 billion, encompassing soft loans, grants, and capacity building programs. We bring our unique experience in nation building within a large, complex, and diverse context, and are willing to share our resources and experiences to help build multifaceted capabilities of our partners. We stand committed to further strengthening our cooperation with our friends and partners in the global south towards achieving their respective national development priorities and in conflict prevention and peace building. Thank you, Madam President.